I love me a good conspiracy, and we got ourselves conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true. So were they really a conspiracy to begin with? I don't know. You be the judge of that. Let's get it. This is right before I go to bed,
Missing
too.
Japanese citizens. One night in June 1978, a 22-year-old single mother of two kids named Yaiko Taguchi was working her usual shift in Tokyo, Japan's cabaret Hollywood. After finishing her shift right at around midnight, Yaiko left the cabaret through the front door and was never seen again. At first, nobody thought that anything serious had happened to Yaiko. In fact, several years later her manager was questioned, and he claims that everyone thought she had quit when she failed to show up. At around that time, there had been rumors going around that several North Korean spies were working undercover in Japan looking to abduct innocent citizens and hold them as hostages back in North Korea.
What the fuck?
However, this was seen by the Japanese government as nothing more than a conspiracy theory that couldn't possibly be true. Sadly, the missing case of Yaiko went cold, and it wasn't until almost a decade later that a clue to her whereabouts emerged following a disturbing chain of events. In November 1987, as South Korea was preparing to host the Olympics in the capital city of Seoul, a Korean Airlines plane blew up in mid-air as it was flying over the Andaman Sea, taking the lives of 115 innocent people.
Wait, how did it blow
During
up?
the investigation, it was revealed that two North Korean agents acting under direct orders from the North Korean government had planted a bomb in an overhead storage compartment before getting off at the first layover in Abu Dhabi. As the
You're telling me this happened on an airliner? Way back then, bro? Like, security wasn't stupid tight. I guess in 9/11 they didn't use a bomb. They used the plane as a bomb, but still, like, what
The authorities were closing in on the two suspects. One of them took his life with a cyanide-laced cigarette, but the South Korean government was able to arrest the other agent responsible for the attack. During her interrogation, it was revealed that she had been training for that mission for 6 years, and that for 3 of them she had been paired with Yaiko Taguchi, who had taught her how to speak and act like a Japanese woman so she could fly under the radar.
Oh my god.
As it was later revealed, Yaiko wasn't the only woman who had been kidnapped by the North Korean government. As of today, 17 Japanese citizens have been officially confirmed by the Japanese government as having been abducted by North Korea from 1977 to 1983.
I'm confused on why they would abduct them. Because if they're, I guess because they would already know the culture a little bit. They would have the accent as well. But, like, wow, that's really fucking creepy.
Disturbingly, a lot of them were shamelessly kidnapped in the middle of the day and thrown on a boat to North Korea. You might think that the victims were involved in something shady that put them on the North Korean government's radar, but the investigations actually suggest that most of them were average citizens who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. It's less liability, less eyes, easiest access. Yeah, that completely makes sense.
One woman was captured while she was walking to a knitting class, and 2 others were kidnapped on a vacation to Europe. Another one, a 13-year-old girl, was taken as she was walking back home from school. Some of these
And this is crazy, cause like we got Ubers and shit now, you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, motherfuckers are just getting in cars with random fucking strangers, and it's just a little weird, bro. We're a little too, like, we got dating apps with just random strangers, like gonna go on a date with some random person you've never met before. It's just, oh, it's so fucking eerie, man.
victims were kidnapped for identity theft purposes, while others, like Yaiko, were forcefully brought to North Korea to teach the Japanese language and culture to North Korean spies. After the kidnappings were confirmed beyond the shadow of a doubt, the North Korean government had no choice but to come forward and apologize, but they claimed that only 5 of the 17 kidnapping victims were still alive.
Holy fuck.
Over the next few years, the North Korean government would send what they would claim to be the cremated remains of some of the deceased victims back to Japan. However, as DNA testing would quickly reveal, pretty much all of the remains were fake, leading the Japanese government to believe that many more of the kidnapping victims were still alive. To this day, the North Korean government has stuck to its story, claiming that there were only 13 kidnapping victims and that the ones who were still alive were sent back safely to Japan. Shockingly, while the Japanese government has officially confirmed 17 kidnappings, the list of potential victims suggests that the true number could be as high as 800. Sadly, given the current political situation, it's unlikely we'll ever see the full extent of these abductions, or see the North Korean government held truly accountable for its horrific crimes.
That's fucking nuts.
Just the other day, I found myself wasting hours of time I could have spent working on videos trying to find and cancel active subscriptions. That's why I've partnered with Rocket Money, the sponsor of this video.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better.
I don't get why people would use this long term.
The favorite feature of mine being canceling subscriptions. It feels like everything has a subscription service these days, making it extremely difficult to keep track of all of them.
Yeah.
For example, I used to have a subscription to a clothing brand that charged me monthly to get small discounts, but the monthly fee was way more than the discounts I ended up getting. I quickly found out that canceling my subscription was 1, hard to find where to do, and 2, difficult to do because the agent with a journalist.
I'm gonna skip that, but here, unlock free. Then it's description. Yeah, it's right there if you want to get that little deal.
Heart attack gun. Back in the 70s, a journalist named Seymour Hersh published an article in the New York Times in which he accused the CIA of several assassination attempts on both foreign and American politicians who they considered to be anti-war dissidents.
Okay.
Due to these allegations, the US Senate put the CIA under investigation for alleged covert action abuses, which resulted in the release of 14 reports on major abuses committed by the CIA, FBI, and NSA. The majority of the reports included accusations of crimes such as opening and resealing US citizens' private mail for several years and illegally surveilling Black Power activists. Although these claims are obviously pretty serious, they paled in comparison to one particular accusation, or conspiracy theory, which alleged that the CIA had developed a pistol that could fire a poison dart over 300 feet, take a person's life, and leave absolutely no trace as to the cause of death.
This is 100% real. 100%. I don't know if the CIA did this, but this has to be a thing. The technology has advanced so much. This has to be a thing, especially in wartime, bro.
As it was later revealed, this theory turned out to be true, and the development of the poison dart gun was just one part of the program called MK Naomi, through which the CIA had sought to develop weapons for biological warfare.
They really love their MKs. They got MK Naomi, MK Ultra.
In 1975, William Colby, the CIA director at the time, had to testify in front of the committee that was investigating the agency. During questioning, he claimed that the CIA had developed a host of biological weapons as part of a plan to eliminate German leaders during World War II, but that their research had continued until well after the war. He also mentioned that the poison dart gun was almost completely silent on account of the battery that was housed inside the handle, and that it had been specifically designed for the target to feel nothing more than a mosquito bite when the dart struck. Interestingly, the agency had used a specific...
Oh, here's the little plot hole. If you're shooting them from so far away, you have to retrieve that dart, or else people are going to obviously suspect foul play when a guy falls over, has a heart attack, and he has just this little cartoon dart sticking in his back. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
specific shellfish toxin to make it impossible for anyone to know what the cause of death was, leading forensic pathologists to believe that the victim had suffered an inexplicable heart attack. It wouldn't help pathologists that the dart was designed to melt inside the body so that it only left a small red mark where it entered the victim.
Never mind.
When asked if the heart attack gun, as it was nicknamed, was ever used on anyone, the director alleged that it had only been used for experiments and that there were no records of actual use. As part
Experiments is such a vague word. We just used it as experiments in the field.
Part of the investigation, the CIA had to hand over the gun to the committee, and there are some pretty wild pictures of the committee members analyzing the gun as William Colby answers their questions about it. Normally you'd expect to see something like the heart attack gun in a spy movie, and it's pretty wild to think that if they hadn't put it under investigation, they would have probably gotten away with using it for who knows what purposes. It's also pretty crazy to think that if that's the kind of stuff they were developing back in the 70s, imagine the kind of technology they have their hands on now.
Yep.
Disturbingly, the hearing was the only time the heart attack gun...
Now they probably have a gun like this that's silent, the same size, but instead of a poison dart, they can just shoot a fucking nuke. It's just... or just laser beam, just to fucking cut through shit.
Was ever shown publicly,
fucking ray gun,
and to this day, it remains unclear what happened to it after the investigation.
The grenade pistols that are pack-a-punch.
Sailors often get a reputation for making up stuff they claim to have seen during their time out at sea, and because there's no one there to refute their claims, they sometimes get away with some pretty tall tales.
I bet there is a high percentage of people that do jobs like this that have mental illness. I would not be surprised at all. Just being on the ocean all day, surrounded by waves, like, man. Oh man, you know they got the stereotype of the the fucking crazy sailor for a reason, probably.
For centuries, sailors all around the world had talked about seeing monster waves on the open sea that would allegedly reach over 100 feet in height. In 1826, a French captain claimed that he had seen a 108-foot tall wave in the Indian Ocean. Even though he had 3 sailors with him who backed up his claims, when he came back to the mainland, he was publicly ridiculed by the scientific community, as it was widely believed that it was impossible for a wave to be higher than 30 feet tall.
Really?
For a long while after that, dozens of people continued to claim sightings of the...
What about a fucking tsunami? Like, yeah, I know that's on the beach, and it's like kind of at its peak, but like, I don't know. You could have like a coral reef or like an island or something, like some kind of obsidian in the middle of the ocean, like a small island forming, and then you have one of those just like ramp up on top of that. I don't know. Sounds believable to me.
Monstrous waves in the middle of the ocean, but with no real evidence other than eyewitness testimonies, the existence of these waves fell into the urban legend or conspiracy theory category.
There's that.
In the 80s and early 90s, the Draupner platform was set up in the North Sea off the coast of Norway to extract natural gas. As part of the protocol that was carried out to see if the platform was stable enough to withstand the rough seas, a wave height recorder was installed on the platform. On New Year's Day in 1995, the sensor recorded an 84-foot tall wave, which served as the first real piece of evidence for the existence of rogue waves. After this incident, a lot of people started wondering how many of the sailors from previous centuries had been telling the truth.
Yep.
What's more disturbing than that is that there were probably hundreds of disappeared sailors from all around the world who had come across a rogue wave, also known as a monster wave or a freak wave. But because most people who encountered 100-foot tall rogue waves
just die.
Generally didn't live to tell the tale, their testimony went down into the depths of the ocean with them. Since the Draupner wave of 1995, there's been a growing interest in rogue waves brewing in the scientific community. A few years ago, a professor at the Australian National University had estimated that at any given moment there are 10 rogue waves active in the world's oceans. As of today, a rogue wave is usually defined as a wave that is twice as large as the largest waves that come up in a particular area.
I'm just so shocked at the amount of information that we really don't know about the ocean. And this is crazy because this is actually surface level shit, right? And this didn't get discovered until, what did he say, 1995? Are you kidding me? Like, wow. What else? Oh my god, I wish we knew more about the ocean, man. I really do.
And while the root cause of rogue waves continues to be investigated, it's generally accepted that these monster waves appear when 2 wave crests join together at the exact right time, resulting in a massive wave that can sink even the largest ships and oil rigs.
That makes sense. So the opposite of an earthquake, which is what causes a tsunami,
Interestingly, it's also been discovered.
If you don't know why I'm saying that, a tsunami, from what I know, I believe it's when tectonic plates shift together or whatever, create an earthquake underground in the ocean and create a huge amount of pressure, which generates a huge wave.
That rogue waves can take place in large lakes. In 1975, a freighter named the SS Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior under some pretty mysterious circumstances, with a lot of people in the scientific community coming up with all kinds of hypotheses to explain the incident. It wasn't until several years later that the scientists started theorizing that the vessel could have fallen prey to a set of 3 consecutive killer rogue waves. A phenomenon referred to as the 3 sisters, in which the first wave destabilizes the ship, the second wave hits the ship's deck before it can stabilize again, and the third wave overloads the ship with more water than it can take on.
Yeah.
If this were true, it could also provide an explanation for the mysterious sinking of other large ships in oceans around the world over the past few centuries, but this might be a bit more difficult to prove. Poisonous alcohol. In January
This can't be a conspiracy. This shit happens fucking probably every goddamn day.
In 1920, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was successfully ratified, triggering a 13-year period known as Prohibition, during which the production, sale, and transportation of alcohol was made illegal. During this period, the government enforced some pretty strict measures to prevent bootlegging of alcohol.
I don't even know where he's going, but I'm gonna assume that this correlates exactly with the weed industry right now. Because people have, weed is not legal in every single state in America, so people sell it illegally. So guess what's happening with that weed? People are putting fentanyl in it because they want to get their fucking clientele addicted, or they automatically come back and spend more money. which is a fucking retarded idea. I'm sorry, because you are going to kill your clientele. But still, yes, I'm guessing. I have a gut feeling that's what it's going to correlate to.
Which made the alcohol black market flourish like crazy.
Yep.
It was pretty much a playground for the mafia in which the government would raid one bar and another one would crop up in just a few days' time. While all of this was happening,
like
there were some pretty
party
messed up rumors floating around that the US government was taking extreme measures to make sure people weren't consuming alcohol. These included allegations that the government was intentionally poisoning alcohol to make people who consumed it sick. For a
Oh my. You take that idea I just said, you flip it with the correlation of what he just said. You think that the government would do such a thing? I don't think they would. It's me being naive, but I really don't think they would. But like, wow. What if there was a fucking universe where there was a plot thread where obviously we've seen it in the news with Mexico and Canada. We are throwing tariffs on them because of the fentanyl crisis and a lot of other stuff. But what if there's a thread where it was actually planned by the CIA or the FBI or some of these intelligence? Oh my God, that would be fucking insane. Dude, I got my fucking full tinfoil hat on right now. Just hanging up on my wall. I need to put it on real quick because wow.
For a while, this remained something of a conspiracy theory, but things took a turn pretty quickly on New Year's Day 1927 when 41 people died from alcohol poisoning at New York's Bellevue Hospital. Disturbingly, the autopsies revealed that a lot of the victims had been drinking industrial methanol, otherwise known as wood alcohol, which can be fatal even at low doses. It turns out that the government had forced companies to denature industrial alcohol to make it undrinkable since 1906, which was far before Prohibition. But when the crackdown on alcohol started, the government ordered these companies to add quinine, methyl alcohol, and other toxic chemicals to discourage people from drinking it. Their reasoning was that if black market dealers knew their alcohol had been poisoned, they wouldn't dare distribute it knowing how...
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Who in their naive mind would believe, oh, if the illegal black market, business market, if they know that, you know, their product is poison, they're not gonna sell their product to make money because it will kill people. You're talking about the mob. The fucking mob. What?
Dangerous it would be for their customers to consume.
Just like any company.
I guess they forgot to factor in that the demand for alcohol at the time was absolutely insane, and that black market dealers didn't care who lived or died from consuming.
You know, it'd be hilarious to see the correlation of people that actually drank some of this shit. And I don't know how addictive these substances are that they're putting into it, but it would be interesting to see how, because I know alcohol is one of the most dangerous and addictive substances in the world. But I wonder if there's any like genetic mutations that might have came from drinking, say, poison alcohol and surviving. And does that mutation pass on to another generation? You know, it's obviously a hypothesis and stuff like that, but it just makes my brain think a little bit more. You know, I'm just trying to understand this and see if this branches out anywhere else.
Their product. It wasn't until December 1933, 6 years after the Bellevue incident, that the federal government finally toned down their abstinence from alcohol policies. But by then, thousands of Americans had already been poisoned with contaminated alcohol.
Yep, just trying to have a good time. Jesus.
Gorillas. Nowadays, there's really nothing too shocking about seeing a gorilla in a zoo or on TV, but there was once a time when gorillas were considered to be in the same category as the chupacabra, the Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster.
Well, to be fair, Bigfoot makes sense because it is gorillas fucking Bigfoot. Like, what are we talking about?
I was able to find that up until a couple of centuries ago, gorillas were considered cryptids, which are animals that are believed by some to exist somewhere in the wild, but whose existence has never been proven.
What?
With most of these creatures, alleged sightings often turn out to be hoaxes, but obviously in the case of gorillas, what were once just rumors turned out to be true. Western explorers wouldn't come across a gorilla until around the 1500s, when an English explorer named Andrew Battelle was captured by the Portuguese off the coast of West Africa. While he was held captive on the mainland, Battelle described these disturbing, giant, ape-like creatures that would occasionally prowl around his campfire, but because he had never seen a similar creature before, he described them more as monsters than as animals. Batel's description sent the rest of the world into what we can only call a gorilla frenzy, with all kinds of rumors being spread about these allegedly bloodthirsty, dangerous creatures living in exotic parts of the world. Over the next couple hundred years, the buzz around gorillas grew as explorers in Africa sent back illustrations of gorillas to Europe, which were often given to royalty and emperors as rare gifts.
What the fuck?
If you were to ask any European back then what a gorilla was, they would have described it in a similar way to how we describe Bigfoot or the chupacabra nowadays. They were thought of more as mythical monsters than regular animals. It wasn't until over 200 years or so later that an American naturalist named Thomas S. Savage found a gorilla skull in 1847 during an expedition to Africa, which was the first piece of real proof for the existence of these animals. Naturally, this triggered a bunch of new expeditions to the area, and between 1855 and 1859, French explorer Paul Duchaillu confirmed the existence of gorillas and even brought some back dead. Just as Andrew Battelle before him, Paul Duchaillu also described gorillas as these savage, bloodthirsty creatures which stuck in the public mind for a long time.
That is wild because they're such gentle creatures. They can fuck you up for sure, but like, that's so weird, man. Like, to think that back in the day, not even that long ago, honestly, people thought these were like unicorns, and now they're just running around in our zoo.
15 years later, some German explorers brought back a baby gorilla from Africa to Liverpool, even putting up some towels on the ship so he could swing around and entertain himself on the long journey back. As you can probably imagine, as soon as the ship arrived back in Liverpool, people started flocking around the hotel where the gorilla was allegedly being kept to catch a glimpse of the once mythical creature. To the public's dismay, Pongo the gorilla wasn't the massive, violent monster they had thought, but rather a cute little 2-year-old gorilla who loved to play with dogs. A few years later in 1902, a German explorer named Robert von Beringe killed 2 mountain gorillas, which were huge in comparison to the baby gorilla that the previous German explorers had brought back. And that was really the first time the public was able to understand what a full-sized adult gorilla looked like. It's pretty crazy to think that at some point these animals that we now see as normal were once seen as legendary monsters.
Fucking Pokemon,
Interestingly, if you really look at the research, there are a ton of other animals that we now take for granted that were once brushed off as hoaxes, including kangaroos, platypuses, giant squids, and Komodo dragons.
Oh man, I honestly, the whole list makes sense.
With so many of these myths turning out to be true, it really makes you wonder how many animals are out there that we have no idea even exist.
Especially under the sea. Bro. Full circle moment. Wow. This is a really cool video, man. I do love conspiracies. This isn't really I guess the beginning was, the Japan one was fucking wild. But yeah, these aren't usually the type of conspiracies I think about. The Prohibition one was interesting too, man. That one really got my brain turning. Look at the comment section below. Oh, also, video definitely deserves a like, in my opinion. All right, holy shit, that North Korea abducting people thing is so fucking terrifying. Yeah, especially nowadays with like not DoorDash, but with Lyft and Uber and, you know, online dating and all that kind of stuff. It can just happen anywhere, right? RIP. I don't even want to imagine how it would have felt to be walking casually, then just suddenly get kidnapped and sent to North Korea. Horrifying. And then also, like, you don't, like, when he said that, like, I was thinking about the like life she might have had after that, like them brainwashing her, the treatment she must have got, some shit you would like think of like the Red Room from Marvel, bro. It's fucking nuts. And I'm sure like every country did that shit too, which is terrifying. Like all the big superpowers, I'm sure. It's just some of them probably didn't get caught. If they admit to 13 kidnappings, they have kidnapped at least 1,300. Yeah, honestly. That's suddenly wasn't the only heart attack gun that was ever made. Too, it probably went right back to the CIA after hearing. Yeah, they probably had a lot more in the lab for sure. Oh man, this was a great video, man. Really, really. It's not one of those that was gonna scare me before I go to sleep or anything. It has actually got my mind turning a little bit more, because I'm thinking about like possible conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I might actually do a little research after this video. But yeah, my name is Trey Swish. This is the Ether. I'm not the Ether. We are the Ether. So hit that sub button to join the Ether. Hit a like. It's free. Why not? It's simple. Little one-click action. And it can help push this video out to more people. And frankly, it just makes my day. Like, it really does. And then the best part is comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. I love to hear from y'all. I usually reply within 2 days. I try to be as quick as possible, but shit, I'm busy. So this is a side gig after all. Hopefully one day maybe it'll be a full-time gig. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.